The Galactic Empire freaks out that can't be a human warship. It's impossible. In the vast expanse of the cosmos where stars burned like ancient forges, casting eternal light across the infinite blackness of space, their nuclear hearts pulsing with the raw energy that birthed worlds and consumed them in equal measure, and nebulae swirled in silent symphonies of creation and destruction, vast clouds of gas and dust birthing new stars in explosions of color visible only to the keenest instruments. The Galviner Empire reigned supreme with an ironclad grip on the known universe, their influence spanning countless systems and enforcing order through superior technology and unyielding doctrine. For millennia, their elegant warships had carved precise paths through the void, sleek vessels with curving hulls that mimicked the natural flows of cosmic winds, their plasma engines humming with the precision of gods, leaving trails of ionized gas that shimmered like ethereal ribbons against the backdrop of eternal night. The galactic war against the encroaching Krath swarm a horde of biomechanical horrors that devoured worlds whole, their chitinous forms merging organic flesh with cold machinery spreading like a plague across the stars. Was their latest crusade a clash of radiant light against the encroaching shadow of oblivion, where entire fleets clashed in ballets of destruction that lit up the darkness. But on this fateful day, at the fringes of known space, where the stars thinned and the void grew colder, the gravitational pulls weaker and the ambient radiation harsher, an anomaly pierced the imperial formation like a jagged thorn in flawless silk disrupting the harmonious alignment of the fleet. It was a hulking, angular ship that looked like it had been assembled from the bones of forgotten machines pieced together with raw determination rather than artistic finesse, its surfaces rough and utilitarian, bearing the marks of welding torches and hasty repairs. The resolute Earth's humble offering to the stars arrived not with fanfare or triumphant blasts of heralding trumpets, but with the quiet resolve of a species long overlooked and underestimated by the galactic elite, a race that had only recently breached the confines of their solar system through sheer grit and innovation born of necessity. Captain Luke Harris gazed out from the bridge, his reflection superimposed on the mesmerizing starfield that stretched endlessly before him, a canvas of pinprick lights that represented distant suns and potential allies or enemies. At 33 years old, he was a man forged in the fires of Earth's experimental test flights, where gravity was a relentless enemy, pulling at every fiber of his being with unyielding force and speed, was a seductive lover, promising exhilaration and peril in equal measure, often blurring the line between triumph and catastrophe. His short-cropped hair was streaked with premature gray, a testament to the immense weight of leading humanity's first interstellar venture, a mission that carried the hopes and fears of an entire planet on its shoulders, from bustling cities to remote outposts where people watched the skies with bated breath. Yet here in the shadow of alien might and technological superiority that dwarfed Earth's achievements, doubt crept into his soul like a cold draft seeping through the cracks of a sealed door, whispering questions about their readiness and the folly of challenging the stars. "Are we ready for this, Emily?" he murmured to Dr. Emily Grant, his chief physicist and closest confidant, whose gentle eyes hid a storm of innovation and intellectual fury, a mind that had unraveled the secrets of quantum entanglement to make this journey possible. Her auburn hair was pulled back tightly into a practical bun, her focus as sharp as the complex equations she wielded like weapons in the battle against the unknown equations that bent reality to humanity's will. She smiled faintly, her voice a calm anchor in the turbulence of uncertainty, steadying the crew with its measured tone. "We've always been ready, Luke. They just don't know it yet. Our preparations have been meticulous, our tech tested in the harshest simulations." The dilemma was crystal clear. Join the coalition as underdogs proving humanity's worth in the face of scorn and skepticism, or fade into obscurity, dooming Earth to isolation in a hostile galaxy teeming with threats like the Krath. The communication channel opened with a soft chime crackling with interstellar static, and the galaxy's judgment awaited hanging like a guillotine blade poised to fall. The Resolute was no sleek marvel of interstellar engineering lacking the graceful curves and polished exteriors of Galvanar craft. Its hull patched and reinforced from decades of Earth's resource-scarce ingenuity bore the scars of a planet that had clawed its way to the stars through sheer willpower and makeshift solutions, enduring asteroid impacts during test runs and radiation storms in deep space. Rivets and welds crisscrossed its surface like battle wounds, each one telling a story of budget cuts in governmental funding, recycled materials from defunct satellites, and late-night breakthroughs in dimly lit workshops where coffee-fueled engineers debated designs until dawn. Its engines burned with a hybrid fusion chemical drive, a gritty compromise born of necessity, rather than elegance belching out plumes of exhaust that contrasted sharply with the clean, efficient glow of Galvanar plasma drives, yet providing reliable thrust in environments where purity failed. Yet within its blocky utilitarian frame lay secrets, technologies born from desperation, from a species that had survived devastating wars, that scarred continents, rampant plagues, that decimated populations, environmental catastrophes, that reshaped ecosystems, and its own hubris in pursuits like unchecked AI development. The crew, a tight-knit group of Earth's best minds and bravest souls, scientists with PhDs from prestigious universities, engineers from global collaborations, pilots honed in atmospheric dogfights, and tacticians drawn from military academies, knew the stakes all too well, their bonds forged in shared hardships and mutual respect. They were not here to impress with aesthetics or grandeur. They were here to endure, to outlast, and to adapt in ways the galaxy had never seen, turning weaknesses into unforeseen strengths. The council chamber on Zarvis Prime echoed with the murmurs of 1,000 worlds, holographic displays flickering like captive lightning bolts, dancing across the vast domed ceiling, projecting real-time data from distant sensors. The chamber was a marvel of alien architecture, its walls carved from crystalline stone that pulsed with bioluminescent veins, casting shifting patterns of blue and green light that mimicked the rhythms of distant oceans on long-lost homeworlds, creating an atmosphere of ancient wisdom and technological prowess. Representatives from across the galaxy filled the tiered seats Vulari with their translucent wings that shimmered like fragile glass under the lights, allowing them to hover slightly in moments of excitement. Krennics with their segmented exoskeletons that clicked softly with every movement, armored bodies adapted to high-gravity worlds. And Draxon with their multifaceted eyes that shimmered like prisms reflecting the room in 1,000 fractured perspectives, enabling them to perceive subtle shifts in body language. At the center stood Admiral Vecthar, his 1,000 scales iridescent under the artificial lights pacing with the arrogance of one who had never known defeat or humility, his tail swishing in rhythmic agitation. His clawed hands gestured emphatically to the live feed, showing the resolute lumbering into formation, its ungainly shape drawing snickers from the assembly, a vessel that seemed anachronistic in this era of advanced warp tech. "This is the human vessel," he sneered, his voice a low rumble that carried across the chamber like thunder rolling over hills laced with the condescension of a veteran warrior. "It looks like a relic from the pre-warp era, cobbled together from scrap and dreams barely holding together against the vacuum. How do they even achieve orbit without imploding under their own primitive weight, or shattering from vibrational stresses? Commander Sil-Ra, her Draxon form graceful and lithe, like a dancer poised for flight, leaned into the discussion, her voice a melodic chime laced with skepticism and a hint of intellectual curiosity that set her apart from her peers. Her antennae twitched as she studied the feed intently, her 6 eyes narrowing in concentration, each facet analyzing a different aspect of the ship's design, from hull integrity to engine signatures. Emperor Korda has decreed their inclusion in the galactic war effort against the Krath swarm, a decision born from strategic necessity amid our stretched resources. But I question the wisdom of such a decision, given the risks it poses to our cohesion. Their technology is, quaint to say the least, reminiscent of our own ancient prototypes. Chemical propulsion systems that spew toxic exhaust into the void. Physical projectiles launched from crude rails vulnerable to countermeasures. In an age where plasma bends to our will and energy shields deflect stars themselves, how can they contribute without becoming liabilities? The chamber rippled with agreement, a chorus of disdain from species who viewed humanity as a quaint evolutionary footnote, a backwater race barely out of their planetary cradle, their achievements dismissed as mere luck. The Voluri whispered of primitives playing at war, their wings fluttering in agitation like leaves in a storm, while the cranics clicked their mandibles in amusement, their laughter sounding like the rattle of dry bones echoing through the hall. Aboard the Resolute, Luke felt the weight of those judgmental stares through the comms link, as if the alien's contempt could pierce the hull itself and chill the air recyclers. His mind raced back to Earth's frantic preparations, the sleepless nights in underground labs buried deep beneath mountains to evade detection from orbital spies, the heated arguments over whether to reveal their technological hand or play it close to the chest, debates that raged in secure conference rooms with holographic models spinning in the air. Scientists and engineers had toiled in secret bunkers, pooling resources from a fractured world divided by politics and scarcity, collaborating across time zones via encrypted links to build the Resolute. It was a ship not of beauty or symmetry, but of defiance and practicality. Its every bolt and weld a testament to human tenacity and the unyielding spirit that had carried them through millennia of adversity, from ice ages to world wars. They see us as burdens, as dead weight dragging down their glorious fleet. He thought, clenching his jaw tightly, his hazel eyes narrowing as he scanned the bridge's array of monitors and controls, noting the steady hum of systems operating at peak efficiency. But burdens can tip the scales in unexpected ways, especially when they're underestimated and strike from the shadows. Lieutenant Marcus Dean, ever the firebrand with a penchant for turning tension into levity, chuckled from his station, his hands dancing over the weapons console with the confidence of a maestro conducting an orchestra of destruction. His dark hair was tousled from hours of vigilant monitoring, his grin boyish and infectious despite the scars crisscrossing his knuckles from years as a test pilot pushing experimental craft to their limits in Earth's atmosphere, where G-forces tested the human body to breaking point. "Let 'em laugh, Cap. I've got a surprise or two that'll wipe those smug grins off their faces and leave them questioning their own superiority. Our railguns are calibrated for precision they've never dreamed of." Emily nodded in agreement, her fingers tracing the contours of the gravitational lens, controls a groundbreaking technology, born from her own theories on space-time manipulation, refined through countless simulations and failures that nearly cost her career. Her voice was soft but resolute, carrying the quiet strength of someone who had dedicated her life to turning theoretical physics into practical salvation amid Earth's resource wars. Our difference is our shield, Luke. They build for beauty and efficiency, assuming the universe is orderly. We build for survival, for redundancy, in the face of chaos, expecting the unexpected at every turn. The channel opened fully with a burst of static, Vecthar's imposing face dominating the Resolute's main screen, his yellow eyes piercing like twin suns burning through the void, radiating authority. "Human captain, state your purpose in this sacred formation. The Galvanar Empire does not suffer weak links in our chain of command. We forge victory from strength alone, and your presence raises doubts." Luke stepped forward, his voice steady as steel, despite the knot of anxiety twisting in his stomach, a remnant of his days training under Earth's unforgiving gravity wells and simulated combat scenarios. "Captain Luke Harris commanding the Resolute. We come in peace to join your coalition against the Krath Swarm, but not unprepared for the trials ahead. Humanity offers its ingenuity and resolve honed through our own trials." The laughter was immediate and uproarious, a wave crashing through the chamber like a tidal surge, delegates leaning forward in amusement. A Voluri delegate quipped snidely, "Peace from primitives. How quaint they bring sticks to a plasma fight, relics from a bygone era," while a Krenix hissed in derision, "Their warship couldn't scratch our hulls. It's more museum piece than military asset destined for the scrap heaps of history." Yet beneath the ridicule, a seed of confusion sprouted among the more perceptive delegates' whispers, questioning the audacity of such a venture. Why would such a fragile, seemingly backward species venture into the heart of the galactic war, facing odds that would crush lesser empires unless they harbored hidden depths? Luke's words hung in the air, a quiet challenge that lingered like an unspoken threat planting the first doubts. Vecthar dismissed it with a dismissive wave of his clawed hand, his scales rippling with impatience and a flicker of unease. "Very well. Form up at the rear of the formation. Try not to hinder our advance or become fodder for the Krath. Stay out of the way. As the transmission cut abruptly, Luke turned to his crew, his expression resolute and unyielding, his mind already plotting the path ahead through tactical overlays. Rear or not, we'll show them what humans are made of: resilience, creativity, and a refusal to back down in the face of adversity. The Resolute maneuvered into position with a groan of its hybrid engines, its blocky form a stark contrast to the imperial elegance, a Goliath among gazelles, waiting patiently to roar and reveal its true might, its sensors quietly scanning the fleet for vulnerabilities. The aliens' contempt simmered like a storm on the horizon, brewing with undercurrents of superiority and dismissal, dark clouds gathering. To test this burden, they perceived Vecthar ordered a subtle probe, a scout ship, to prod the human anomaly, blind to the lesson it would soon learn in the harsh school of underestimation, a miscalculation that would echo through the ranks. Whispers slithered through the Galvanar ranks like shadows in a dying sun, insidious and pervasive, spreading doubt and mockery, in equal measure eroding the fleet's unity from within. Aboard the Supremacy, the Empire's flagship, a colossal vessel shaped like a predatory bird with wings of gleaming alloy, its decks bustling with officers in crisp uniforms. The atmosphere was thick with superiority, a palpable arrogance that filled the air like incense. A Vulari navigator hissed to his comrade in low tones, his translucent wings twitching nervously as he glanced at the tactical display showing the Resolute's position. Look at them, clumsy as asteroids tumbling through the void, without grace, powering through space on fossil fuels and outdated chemistry that pollutes the ether. They'll be the first to fall when the Krath descend with their insatiable hunger, devouring everything in their path, leaving nothing but husks. The navigator's companion, a Krenix engineer with a segmented exoskeleton that gleamed under the bridge's sterile white lights, clicked in agreement, its mandibles glinting sharply as it adjusted a control panel with precise movements. Indeed, their presence is an insult to our engineering prowess. How can such relics stand beside our masterpieces forged in the finest shipyards of Zarvis? Admiral Vecthar, monitoring from the Supremacy's command deck, a raised platform surrounded by holographic interfaces that projected star maps and sensor data in 3 dimensions, allowing for immersive strategy sessions, allowed a rare smile to crease his scaled lips, revealing rows of sharp teeth that glinted menacingly. "Birds fluttering among dragons, mere insects in our shadow," he declared to Silra, who stood beside him with poised elegance, her antennae twitching thoughtfully as she processed the unfolding events with analytical detachment. "They disgrace our formation with their asymmetry and crudeness, a blemish on our perfect array. Emperor Korda must regret this alliance forged in the haste of desperation against the Krath now threatening our morale." Silraya, ever the strategist with a mind honed by centuries of tactical simulations and historical analyses, felt a twinge of unease deep in her core, a subtle vibration in her exoskeleton. Her multifaceted eyes scanned the Resolute's feed, noting its asymmetrical design, its patchwork hull that spoke of repairs and adaptations, rather than flawless construction hinting at a resilience born from trial. "Arrogance blinds us, Admiral. Their arrival disrupts our perfect symmetry, and there may be more to their design than meets the eye, perhaps layers we haven't probed." But Vecthar waved it away dismissively, his scales shimmering with unshakable confidence, refusing to entertain doubt. Disdain is earned through inferiority. Let us test their mettle with a scout, see if this Resolute can even defend itself from a mere probe, or if it crumbles like the antique it appears to be. The order went out swiftly, a sleek Galvanar scout slipping from the fleet like a dagger from its sheath, its cloaking fields engaging to approach under the guise of routine, scanning its sensors, humming with curiosity. On the Resolute, the tension was palpable, hanging in the air like a thick fog that made every breath feel heavier, the crew's senses heightened by the soft beeps of incoming alerts. Luke paced the bridge, his boots echoing on the worn metal floor, grading each step a reminder of the ship's earthly origins and the long journey from Sol. His mind was a whirlwind of memories, Earth's divided nations uniting in fear of the stars, after first contact signals revealed the Krath threat diplomatic summits, where leaders argued over funding his own test flights, where one wrong calculation meant fiery oblivion in the atmosphere the G-forces pressing him into his seat like an invisible giant. The bridge was a cramped space filled with flickering screens displaying sensor data in real time, the hum of overworked systems, straining under load, and the faint scent of ozone from the fusion drive mixing with recycled air. "They're probing us, testing our defenses with that scout," he said, voice low, and measured, his eyes flicking to the sensor readouts that showed the approaching vessel as a blip on the radar closing steadily. "Emily, ready. The defenses ensure the gravitational lens is calibrated for deflection and monitor for any energy spikes. Marcus, keep it non-lethal if possible. We don't want to escalate to full conflict yet, but be prepared to respond." Emily's eyes sparkled with anticipation as she adjusted her console, her fingers moving with the precision of a surgeon performing delicate work. "Grav lens at full capacity, kinetic railgun primed and loaded with low-yield rounds. They won't know what hit them, but we'll make sure it's just a warning, a tap on the shoulder." Marcus leaned back in his chair, a reckless gleam in his eye that belied his tactical acumen, his mind already simulating trajectories. "Non-lethal, Cap. Where's the fun in that? But fine, let's just tickle 'em a bit and send them scampering back to Mommy Fleet." The scout closed in with predatory intent, its sensors pinging the Resolute like curious fingers, probing for weaknesses, emitting bursts of electromagnetic pulses to map the ship's structure and identify potential entry points for hacks. Its hull was a sleek crescent of polished alloy designed for speed and stealth, its plasma engines glowing faintly with a blue hue as it maneuvered with predatory grace, weaving through the fleet's formation with effortless agility. Vecthar watched eagerly from the supremacy, his claws tapping rhythmically on the armrest of his command throne, anticipation building, like a coiled spring ready to unleash. "Fire a warning shot. If they resist, show them the folly of their intrusion, humble them." But before the scout could act or escalate, the Resolute responded with calculated precision, its systems whirring to life. A faint hum built within the human ship, a vibration that seemed to ripple through space itself, distorting the nearby starlight ever so slightly in a localized warp field. Then silence broken only by the whir of internal mechanisms releasing the payload. Inferi once. 3 seconds, a minuscule projectile lanced out at near-light speeds, slipping past the scout's energy shields like a ghost through fog, undetected by their advanced but predictable defenses that prioritized energy threats over kinetics. It struck the power conduit with pinpoint accuracy, a precise disablement that left the ship adrift, systems rebooting in a cascade of failures, but the hull intact and crew unharmed, floating helplessly. The council chamber fell into a stunned hush, the murmurs dying like embers in a sudden wind, delegates exchanging glances of bewilderment. "What sorcery is this?" Vecthar growled, his scales shifting to a defensive gray hue, a physiological response to threat, his tail lashing in frustration. Silrai replayed the data on her personal holographic display, zooming in on the trajectory, her voice hushed with a mix of awe and concern. "Lucky? They say no admiral that was intuition, a strike guided by unpredictable logic, born from a different evolutionary path, exploiting gaps we never fortified." Marcus's voice crackled over open comms laced with humor, and a touch of defiance that lightened the mood on the Resolute. "Oops, did we bump your toy? Sorry folks, next time knock first before you come snooping around our backyard." Laughter. No just muttered curses from the aliens, their disdain now tinged with the first hints of uncertainty, a crack in their armor. "Primitives!" Vecthar spat, but doubt gnawed at him like a parasite, burrowing deeper into his confidence. The humans had survived not by matching power with power, but by striking where no one looked, exploiting blind spots in the Galvanar's vaunted technology with elegant simplicity. Luke exhaled slowly, the adrenaline fading into a steely resolve that hardened his features, his pulse returning to normal. He glanced at his crew. Emily, her hands steady on the controls, despite the high stakes, her face flushed with success. Marcus grinning like a kid who'd won a bet against impossible odds, fist-pumping subtly. "They see us now, at least a glimpse of our capabilities," he thought. "But disdain dies hard, and they'll push further to save face." The fleet pressed on through the void, the Resolute trailing like a stubborn shadow, its silence louder than any roar, a harbinger of the upheavals to come in the war's unfolding drama. The disabled scout was a crack in the Imperial facade, curiosity mingling with anger like oil and water in turbulent seas. The Galviner, unwilling to yield their perceived superiority, escalated to a first true clash, testing the humans' limits in the fires of battle amid the chaos of the stars, seeking to reassert dominance. The Krill system's asteroid field loomed like the jagged teeth of some cosmic beast, a treacherous maze where gravity played tricks and debris fields hid ambushes, a natural fortress or graveyard, depending on one's skill. The asteroids, some as large as moons, with surfaces pocked with craters from eons of collisions and cosmic bombardments, spun lazily in the dim light of a distant star, casting long shadows that danced across the void, creating pockets of darkness, ideal for tactics. 3 Galviner light cruisers, their hulls gleaming like quicksilver under the faint stellar glow, detached from the main fleet with synchronized precision, forming a triangular assault pattern that maximized their firing arcs and minimized exposure. Their plasma lances glowed with an azure intensity, charging with energy drawn from compact fusion cores, ready to carve through anything in their path with surgical heat that could melt armor in seconds. Vekthar's command echoed across the comms, his voice laced with vindictive glee and underlying frustration. Engage the human vessel immediately. Demonstrate our superiority, disable if possible, but leave no doubt in their minds, or ours, that they are outmatched and outclassed. The Council observed via live feed from Zarvis Prime, expecting a spectacle of Imperial might, crushing frailty, a quick lesson in galactic hierarchy, to restore confidence. Silra, at Vekthar's side on the Supremacy's command deck, voiced a rare caution, her antennae quivering slightly with unspoken foreboding, her mind racing through potential outcomes. Admiral, their projectile bypassed our scouts' shields, effortlessly ignoring our energy harmonics. Energy-based defenses may falter against physical strikes that exploit material weaknesses. Perhaps we should probe further. Vekthar's laugh was a harsh rasp, his confidence unshaken despite the warning, his scales reflecting the bridge's lights in defiant patterns blinding momentarily. Then overwhelm them with sheer force and numbers. 3 against 1 mathematics favors us, and our technology ensures victory without question. The cruisers advanced relentlessly, their plasma lances charging with a high-pitched whine that reverberated through the void, a sound that seemed to taunt the Resolute's existence, echoing off the asteroids like a predator's growl building to a strike. Aboard the Resolute, alarms blared softly in a controlled urgency, red lights pulsing across consoles as the crew snapped into action with drilled efficiency. Luke's heart pounded like a drum in his chest, but his commands were ice-cold, honed by years of high-stakes missions in Earth's orbit, where split-second decisions meant life or death amid orbital debris. Battle stations, everyone! Seal bulkheads, divert power to defenses and thrusters. Emily lens integrity check now and prepare for multi-vector deflection. Emily's fingers flew over her console with practiced speed, her voice steady amid the chaos, her mind racing through calculations that accounted for asteroid interference. 98% integrity, Captain. Their beams won't touch us. The lens will warp spacetime just enough to deflect, but we'll need to maneuver to avoid overload. Marcus whooped with adrenaline-fueled enthusiasm, his energy infectious despite the dire odds spreading a spark of morale through the bridge like wildfire. Finally, some real action loading kinetic barrage. Let's poke their weak spots and watch them squirm using those scans from earlier. Luke's mind flashed to simulations back on Earth, virtual arenas where failure meant extinction for the species. Scenarios no alien could imagine, ones where survival hinged on ingenuity, improvisation, and exploiting the unexpected, like using gravity slingshots around black holes. We're not strong like them in raw power, he reflected inwardly, but we're clever, adaptable. That's our edge in this unforgiving universe, turning their strengths against them. The cruisers fired in unison, azure plasma arcs, slashing toward the Resolute like celestial blades forged from starfire, cutting through the vacuum with trails of ionized particles that left glowing afterimages. The human ship didn't evade in the traditional sense. Instead, Emily's gravitational lens activated with a subtle hum, warping space-time in a shimmering bubble that distorted the surrounding starfield, like a heat haze over desert sands. The beams bent unnaturally, curving away, like water around a stone dissipating harmlessly into the asteroids, where they vaporized rock in spectacular but ineffective explosions, sending shards flying. A cruiser captain's voice broke over the open comms, laced with disbelief and a hint of panic rising in tone. Impossible. Our weapons are calibrated for maximum penetration. How can they deflect like that, bending physics itself? Before they could recalibrate their systems or adjust tactics, the Resolute retaliated with ruthless efficiency, its railguns humming to life. Marcus's fingers danced on his controls, launching a volley of gram-mass projectiles, accelerated to a whisper from light speed via electromagnetic rails, each one a pinpoint of destruction. Each projectile was a marvel of human engineering, guided by advanced algorithms that predicted alien design flaws with uncanny precision, drawing from databases of scanned enemy tech and adaptive AI learning from the scout encounter. The lead cruiser shuddered violently as a single shot pierced its main energy tube, a structural Achilles heel scanned and exploited in mere seconds by the Resolute's AI-assisted targeting of vulnerability in the conduit's alloy composition. Sparks erupted along its hull in a cascade of electrical discharges, systems flickering erratically as the ship listed inert its crew, scrambling in zero-gravity chaos to restore power amid blaring alarms and emergency lights. The other two cruisers scattered in panic, their elegant formations broken like fragile glass, shattering under impact engines, flaring desperately to evade further strikes weaving erratically. How did they know our vulnerabilities so quickly? Vecthar roared from the supremacy, slamming a fist on his console with enough force to dent the reinforced surface, his scales flaring red in rage, veins pulsing. Chaos erupted in the council chamber, apprehension replacing ridicule as delegates exchanged worried glances and urgent messages. Silra analyzed frantically, her eyes darting across data streams pouring in from sensors, cross-referencing with archives. They anticipated our design flaws through rapid scanning and pattern recognition. Not luck intuition born of different thinking, a mindset unbound by our conventions embracing chaos. Luke watched the drifting cruiser on the view screen, a pang of reluctance hitting him like a physical blow. He had no desire for needless destruction, preferring diplomacy where possible. We didn't destroy them outright, he thought. Just showed we can defend ourselves and more planting seeds of respect. Marcus grinned triumphantly, wiping sweat from his brow with the back of his hand, his breathing steadying. Told you Cap physics is the great equalizer, and we've mastered the dirty tricks they never saw coming. The Resolute held position amid the swirling debris of the asteroid field, unscathed and defiant, a testament to human unpredictability that sent ripples through the Galvanar ranks, forcing a reassessment. The first clash sowed chaos in Galvanar ranks, their panic, a harbinger of shifting power dynamics and fractured egos. But pride demanded more. A greater force gathered, and in its shadow, a human sacrifice would turn the tide forever, forging bonds from loss and heroism. Tensions coiled like a spring in the asteroid labyrinth of Krill. The Resolute's victory, a bitter pill for the Empire to swallow lingering on their tongues, like acid that burned away complacency. Vecthar, his composure fracturing like cracked armor under strain, summoned the indomitable, a behemoth cruiser, whose plasma arrays could raise entire fleets in a single barrage, a flagship of flags with a storied history of conquests. Its hull a kilometer long and adorned with intricate engravings that glowed with the Empire's pride and historical motifs, depicting past victories loomed like a leviathan awakening from slumber in the deep. End this farce once and for all. Vecthar commanded, his voice, a low growl that reverberated through the Supremacy's comm systems, carrying to every ship. Target their propulsion systems, make them beg for mercy, and reveal their inferiority before the Council. The Indomitable lumbered forward with ponderous grace, its shadow eclipsing nearby stars, magnetic fields humming in anticipation of the kill, drawing in stray asteroid fragments like a gravitational maw that cleared its path. Silra protested vehemently, her voice sharp with urgency and a growing respect for the human's capabilities, her antennae vibrating. Admiral, the human's knowledge of our weaknesses is uncanny, derived from adaptive scans. We should retreat and study their methods before committing such force, lest we expose more vulnerabilities. But Vecthar's eyes blazed with unbridled fury, his scales flaring with defiance as he dismissed her counsel outright. No, we crush insects underfoot, not study them in labs. Our empire bows to no primitives, press the attack. The Council held its breath in the chamber on Zarvis Prime, the live feed capturing every pulse of energy, every flicker of the Indomitable's weapons, charging with ominous glows, that built-in intensity, the air thick with anticipation of a decisive blow that would restore order. On the Resolute, Luke assessed the incoming threat with a calm exterior masking inner turmoil, his voice urgent but controlled, as he issued orders across the bridge. The bridge was a hive of activity crew members moving with practiced precision amid the blare of proximity alerts and flashing warnings. Emily, can the lens hold against that level of firepower? Give me honest projections, including fallback options. Emily's brow furrowed in concentration, her calculations flashing across her screen in rapid sequences of numbers and graphs, factoring in power draw. For a time, yes, but not indefinitely. Its output is 10 times our previous scouting counter. We'll need to evade or counter quickly to prevent burnout. Marcus, with reckless fire burning in his veins from years of daring maneuvers in test flights, stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor, grating in the tension. Let me take a module out there. Draw it into the planet's magnetic pull, disrupt their shields with a targeted strike on the node. Luke shook his head firmly, fear gripping his heart like icy fingers at the thought of losing his friend, his voice firm. Negative, Lieutenant. That's suicide retreat now, and live to fight another day. We can outmaneuver. But Marcus's eyes met his, fierce with loyalty and determination unblinking. Cap, you know I'm right. Someone's got to do the crazy thing to buy time. For Earth. For us all. It's what we trained for in those sims where sacrifice won the day. Against orders, Marcus dashed to the launch bay, his boots pounding on the metal grates in a frantic rhythm, heart racing with a mix of fear and exhilaration passing crew members who looked on in shock. He sealed himself in a suicide module, a dart of a craft laden with kinetic payloads, its hull barely larger than a coffin designed for high-risk insertions with minimal life support. Launching now! He broadcast over the internal comms engines, flaring with a roar that echoed through the Resolute's corridors like a battle cry shaking loose panels. Luke pounded the console in frustration, his voice breaking with emotion for the first time. Marcus aboard immediately. That's an order. Come back, damn it. But the module streaked out into the void, weaving through incoming plasma bursts, like a needle threading a haystorm, its small size making it an elusive target amid the debris. The Indomitable targeted it with automated systems, its weapons locking on with red targeting lasers sweeping the area. But Marcus evaded masterfully, luring the cruiser toward Krill's roiling magnetic field, a turbulent zone where the planet's core churned with chaotic energy, distorting sensors and shields alike, creating electromagnetic storms. The collision was cataclysmic, yet surgical in its precision, a ballet of destruction orchestrated by one man's resolve amid explosions of light. Marcus's module slammed into the cruiser's shield node at full velocity, both vessels tumbling into the gravitational maelstrom in a whirl of debris and energy discharges that lit up the asteroid field. A surge of disrupted fields ripped through the Indomitable frying circuits and overloading systems in a chain reaction that cascaded through decks, leaving it a drifting hulk, its once proud engravings scorched and lifeless under the assault crew compartment's venting atmosphere. Marcus's signal vanished in a burst of static, the silence deafening across the Resolute's bridge, broken only by sobs from crew. Pain lanced Luke's chest like a blade, memories of shared laughs over mess hall meals. Marcus's unyielding faith in humanity, during dark training sessions where they bonded over near misses flooding his mind in a torrent of regret. He knew the risks, calculated them perfectly. Emily whispered, tears streaking her face, her voice barely audible over the hum of the bridge systems, her hands trembling. The field would expose their shield flaw to gravity shear, amplifying the impact tenfold. He saved the Resolute and perhaps the Alliance from further escalation. The Council reeled in surprise, gasps echoing through the chamber as data feeds confirmed the Indomitable's disablement holograms showing the wreckage. Silra gasped, her antennae quivering with shock and admiration, her voice trembling. That sacrifice. It revealed our vulnerability in ways we never anticipated, a selfless act that shames our tactics. Humans aren't reckless, they're profoundly knowledgeable, willing to pay the ultimate price for victory and loyalty. Vecthar stood silent, his scales ashen and dull, the cost of arrogance etched in the loss of his prized vessel and crew, his world shaken. Marcus's act, born of intuition, bond, and selfless courage, shifted the battlefield irrevocably, turning disdain to pained respect and opening eyes to humanity's depth and honor. In the echo of sacrifice, alien eyes opened wider to the truth of human potential, reevaluating preconceptions. The Resolute's design unraveled in their scans, birthing curiosity and reluctant admiration in the Alliance's forge as grief mingled with newfound alliance and strategic rethinking. Data streams flooded the Gelviner analysis bays aboard the Supremacy Sil-Ra at the forefront, her mind a whirlwind of revelation and paradigm-shifting insights that challenged core doctrines. The analysis chamber was a sterile dome, its walls lined with holographic projectors that dissected the Resolute structure in real-time layer by layer, revealing intricacies hidden beneath its rugged exterior, with technicians buzzing around consoles. No singular power core to target and disable, making it resilient to focused strikes. She announced to the hushed chamber holograms blooming with the Resolute's innards, like a flower unfolding in accelerated time, highlighting redundant pathways. Instead, 6 layered grids, each self-sustaining and capable of rerouting energy in milliseconds, adapting to damage on the fly. No monolithic AI dictating every action, dozens of modular units redundant, and adaptive learning from failures in real time through distributed processing. Weapons. Not streamlined elegance like our plasma lances, but a tapestry of backups, each iteration improvising on potential failure modes, from kinetic rails to EMP bursts and hybrid munitions. Awe crept into her tone, her multifaceted eyes wide with realization, each facet reflecting a different angle of the human engineering marvel, appreciating the beauty and complexity. They reject perfection for resilience, embracing redundancy as a virtue. It's brilliant in its chaos, a design philosophy born from a world of scarcity and unpredictability, where failure is a teacher. Vecthar hovered nearby, denial warring with the irrefutable evidence displayed before him, his claws twitching, betraying his inner turmoil and growing insecurity. One ship commander. Marcus's stunt was desperation, a fluke in the heat of battle that won't repeat. Sil-Ra turned to him, her eyes fierce with conviction, unyielding. Desperation that exposed our flaws in shielding and energy distribution with precision. Their path diverges radically, where we seek minimalism and aesthetic purity. In design, they over-engineer for eternity, anticipating every breakdown and turning it to advantage. Hard to kill, harder to predict, and impossible to fully counter without adaptation on our part. The council stirred on Zarvis Prime Vulari delegates, nodding thoughtfully, their wings folding in respect, rather than agitation, for the first time discussing implications. Krennic's envoys murmured of potential alliances, their mandibles clicking in a rhythm of intrigue and cautious optimism, seeing opportunities in humanity's unorthodox approach to warfare and survival. Aboard the Resolute, grief hung heavy like a shroud, the air thick with unspoken loss, and the scent of burnt circuits from the launch. Luke stared at the empty module bay, the racks where Marcus's craft had rested now starkly vacant tools scattered from hasty prep. Marcus's voice echoing in his head. "We're the underdogs, Cap, but underdogs bite hardest when cornered, trust me." Doubt clawed at him relentlessly had he failed his friend by not stopping him, or by not seeing the necessity sooner, a commander's burden. The bay was silent save for the distant hum of life support systems, its metallic walls cold to the touch under emergency lighting. Emily approached quietly, her touch on his shoulder grounding him in the present, her voice soft but firm, with shared sorrow and resolve. "He chose this path, Luke, to show them our heart, our willingness to sacrifice for the greater good amid the stars. Now they see us anew not as burdens, but as equals in potential thanks to his bravery." A comm pinged suddenly, Sil-Ra's private hail, her image flickering onto the screen, with a clarity that bridged the void, her expression one of solemn respect. "Captain Harris, your loss honors us all and humbles our empire profoundly. Explain this. Endurance, this layered resilience that defies our logic and challenges our designs." Luke's response carried raw emotion, his voice thick with grief and pride, eyes glistening, but resolve unbroken drawing from Earth's resilient history. "Commander, we don't believe in flawless beauty or singular points of failure that doom the whole. Life's messy on earth wars that scar continents and souls' loves that break hearts, yet heal stronger losses that forge unbreakable bonds. So we build with layers with heart and foresight, expecting betrayal from fate. Marcus proved it with his life. Humanity endures because we adapt, we feel, we fight for each other beyond self. Silra paused, admiration blooming in her multifaceted eyes like stars igniting in a nebula. Your mess may save us from the Krath swarm's onslaught. We have much to learn from your philosophy. Whispers spread through the council chamber. Humans, the curious wild card in the galactic deck, unpredictable saviors. Other species reached out tentatively, their eyes shifting from scorn to the spark of alliance inquiries, flooding in about human tactics designs and even cultural exchanges. Vecthar watched from afar, panic flickering in his gaze, the Empire's model cracked by human difference, forcing a re-evaluation of their own doctrines and opening doors to hybrid innovations. Admiration tempered with fear, the aliens grappled with the truth of human ingenuity and spirit. But the Council demanded answers, unveiling humanity as the reluctant weapon in the galactic war, a force to be reckoned with in the coming storms. Emperor Korda's throne room thrummed with tension, its obsidian walls reflecting the crimson pulse of his Shivari veins, which glowed with bioluminescent intensity, casting an eerie blood-red glow across the vast chamber adorned with trophies from conquered worlds. The Emperor's form was imposing, towering over his subjects, with a presence that commanded absolute obedience, his skin shifting hues with his emotions, now flaring with irritation. Why does one human ship unravel our might, exposing flaws we thought invincible and sowing discord in our ranks? He demanded, his voice a deep resonance that shook the air like seismic waves echoing off the polished stone and making attendants flinch. Vecthar and Silra knelt before him on the cold floor, the weight of failure heavy on their shoulders like chains of judgment. Vecthar stammered, his scales dull with shame, and beads of sweat forming on his brow under the heat of scrutiny. Emperor, their tactics. Psychological ploys designed to sow discord and exploit momentary lapses. Silra interjected boldly, her voice steady, despite the Emperor's intimidating aura, drawing courage from data. More than that, sire. The Resolute embodies untapped potential tactics, woven with emotion, resistance forged in diversity and adversity, a blend of intellect and instinct we lack in our uniform approach. The chamber darkened dramatically, as feeds from 7 sectors lit up on massive holographic displays, phantom signatures mimicking the Resolute's profile, appearing like ghosts across the Empire's sensors, triggering alerts and diverting resources from fronts. Bluff! Vecthar accused vehemently, his claws slashing the air in frustration, denying the cleverness. Dr. Emily Grant's image appeared via a secure diplomatic link, her voice calm but edged with defiance, her auburn hair framing a face etched with determination and fatigue. Indeed, Emperor. The Resolute is our sole vessel in this theater, a pioneer. But post-scout encounter, we disperse decoy emissions using low-power drones scattered in the field. Your regions believe encirclement by a fleet, drawing forces thin and creating openings. Luke joined the transmission, his expression sharp and unyielding, drawing from Earth's history of strategic deceptions, like ancient battles and cold wars. We've bluffed from poker tables and smoky rooms to chessboards and grand halls, turning weakness into perceived strength through misdirection. Minds win wars before weapons do, by manipulating expectations and fears. Korda leaned forward on his throne, intrigued yet wary, his veins pulsing slower as curiosity overtook anger, his mind weighing alliances. You play the galaxy like a game, humans, with lives as pieces on a board of stars. Luke nodded firmly, his voice resolute, and carrying the weight of his crew's sacrifices, invoking human resilience. Survival's the ultimate game, Emperor. Your elegance assumes superiority through uniformity. Ours assumes adaptation through variety. We've survived our own world's apocalypses by thinking laterally, innovating under pressure. Panic rippled through the chamber. Humans excelled in tactics, emotions fueling unorthodox strikes. Resistance, unbreakable, even in isolation, a wild card. Silra whispered urgently to Vecthar, her voice low but insistent. They're the weapon we need against the craft reluctant but revolutionary, capable of turning the tide with ingenuity alone, complementing our strengths. The Emperor's veins steadied his gaze, locking onto Luke's image with a mix of respect and calculation, seeing opportunity. Reveal more humans. Join us not as burdens or subordinates, but as blades in our arsenal, sharing your secrets for mutual gain. Luke's doubt eased slightly, Marcus's sacrifice echoing in his heart like a guiding echo fueling his words. We fight as equals or not at all. Partnership, not subjugation with shared knowledge. Shock transformed to recognition among the Emperor's advisors. Humanity's potential emerged as the Empire's salvation in the Galactic War, a reluctant force that could redefine victory through synergy. From shock to strategy, the truth dawned on the Galvanar, illuminating paths forward. Legends stirred as the final assault loomed, etching human echoes into galactic stone forever, a legacy of change. The Void of Krill became a canvas of defeat, Galvanar cruisers adrift like broken sculptures among the asteroids, their once mighty forms twisted and silent trails of venting plasma fading. Vecthar, his pride in tatters like shredded banners from a lost battle, ordered the Armada in a last-ditch fury. 20 vessels unleashing hell, their plasma arrays, lighting the void like a dying star exploding in slow motion, a desperate bid for dominance. Annihilate them utterly! He roared, his voice cracking with desperation, and the realization of impending humiliation echoing through channels. But the Resolute's lenses warped plasma into futile spirals, bending the beams into harmless arcs that illuminated the asteroids in eerie dancing glows. Energy wasted on rock instead of target, a symphony of deflection. Kinetics pierced hulls with unerring grace, each shot finding weak points with surgical precision, honed from real-time analysis and adaptive targeting, disabling engines and weapons without needless slaughter, showing mercy in victory. Luke commanded with quiet fury, his voice steady, despite the chaos unfolding on screens, channeling grief into focus and precision. For Marcus, for every human who's ever been underestimated and risen above. Emily's systems sang under her guidance, her redundant grids unyielding against overloads her gravitational lens, a shield of warped reality that defied conventional physics holding firm. Vecthar watched in horror from the supremacy, his scales paling to a ghostly white hands trembling. They bend our beams, unstoppable like forces of nature unbound. Silra, standing beside him with composure, spoke with reverence, her tone reverent. Innovation incarnate admiral, we've met our match in their adaptability and spirit. Korda, witnessing the rout via live feed in his throne room, summoned terms of surrender and alliance his advisors in disarray. In the opulent chamber, Luke stood tall via hologram, his uniform worn, but his posture unbowed, a symbol of human defiance amid the grandeur. Sovereignty for Earth, end assimilation policies. Confederation of paths, diverse where differences strengthen rather than divide, fostering true unity. He demanded, his voice carrying the weight of Marcus's sacrifice and humanity's history of overcoming tyranny. Korda signed the New Light Treaty with a flourish, his voice profound and echoing through halls. You, the weak in appearance, prove most dangerous through wit and will. Welcome equals in the stars, partners in fate. Legends were carved across the galaxy. Voluri stones etched Resolute's stand. In intricate detail, their artisans immortalizing the human ship in crystalline relief that captured every rivet and scar tales passed down. Humans became the warriors who forged anew their story, whispered in alien halls from Zarvis Prime to distant outposts, inspiring tales of underdogs rising against odds. On the Resolute's bridge, Emily embraced Luke tightly, her voice soft amid the hum of victory and relief. We honored him, Luke. Marcus would be proud of this new dawn. Pride swelled in Luke's chest like a rising tide, tears held back. Change the stars forever, he whispered, gazing at the view screen showing the retreating fleet. Difference innovates reason. Trump's beauty power chosen, not given blindly. The galaxy in awe engaged a new era, warm, humane, unbreakable in its diversity and shared purpose. As the Resolute warped homeward through folds of space-time stars blurring into streams of hope and possibility, leaving trails of distorted light Luke reflected on the journey from the edge of obscurity to echoes of legend that would resonate for generations. The Galactic War raged on in distant sectors, but humanity's light-pierced prejudice birthing alliances from arrogance's ashes and paving the way for a united front against common foes. In quiet moments aboard the ship, Marcus's laugh lingered like a ghost in the corridors, a reminder the underestimated rise not with validation from others, but through victory earned by their own hands and hearts. The message resonated across the Cosmos Forge. Your path, wield your difference as a weapon, embrace the mess. The cosmos, once hostile and indifferent, now whispered welcome to the newcomers who had proven their place with blood and brilliance. Archive Voyagers, echoes of defiance resound through the void. This sci-fi story of grit ignited your spirit. Like, subscribe, comment. Your defiant moment. Let's voyage onward together into uncharted stars.